This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Everybody, welcome to part 2 of the episode for December 26, 2022. This is our trip report, part 2. As we're recording this, I'm like, we are through my first park day, and the show is like 40 minutes long. So danger.
Trying to figure out how to signal to you, I think we need to cut this at some point.
Yes. No, I saw that those vibes, definitely. Okay, so it's part 2. If you just continue listening, we're picking right off. If it's been a few days or somehow you're listening to this without listening to the last one, go back to the previous episode and go through the first couple days of our trip. We just did my first 3 park days and arrival day. We had just done Phil's arrival day and first resort day of his trip.
Yep.
And then we're about to go through the major sprint of Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th. I have 3 park days: Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, and Epcot. And Phil, you have a busy schedule with a bunch of hopping, and you're going all over.
Exactly.
And we'll go through it side by side. And I promise to do a better job of being simultaneously explaining what's happening. Okay, so it is 7 o'clock, Phil, on Saturday the 10th. We're both up at the same time. My family's sleeping in this morning because we just did 3 park days, basically rope drop to close for the most part. And the previous day at Epcot, we did not leave the park all day long. And that's kind of our bad. And it just kind of happened that way. It was just like, I don't want to go back and just sit there for a half hour and then have to come back for our Acrisures reservation. So we just stayed and had some fun. So now it's 7 o'clock and I am very tired, but we are trying to make an effort. And I end up we ended up getting the park at 8:45 that morning versus rope drop where we might have been there at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's 7 o'clock. I book the Jingle Cruise for 11:55. However, I believe this is the first day we get a chance to modify our times on Genie Plus.
I think so, yeah.
So this was kind of interesting on what I had to do. I originally had booked the Jungle Cruise for 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something else like that, and I was devastated. I'm like, oh, my last Magic Kingdom day, and I'm not going to be able to refresh my way to glory and power. And so I had to think, what happened for you at 7 o'clock? So you're up. Jungle Cruise was our agreed upon best strategy for Magic Kingdom.
And it was obviously our first time ever using Genie Plus, so we're all a little anxious and nervous and stuff like that. So my wife and I were both both trying for Jingle Cruise, and this is where something where we mentioned last time where it was right at 7, and it still didn't look like I could book Jingle Cruise because I guess it was kind of the popular ride seemed to be delayed by a minute or two. But as soon as it comes up, I think my wife was the one who got it, and she got one for 11:45 in the morning. So not as early as we were hoping, but early enough because we were planning to hop later in the day. So at least it was, certainly before pre-hop time. So we were like, okay, it is what it is. And then we tried to work on getting the kids up and dressed and out the door because obviously, early entry starts at 8:30 that day. We want to take advantage of that. It doesn't go quite as smoothly as we hoped. I think we were at the bus stop at around 8:20. We get to Magic Kingdom right at about 8:30. We did need to stop by guest services because my wife had an issue with one of her tickets. Turned out everything was okay, but we were just a little antsy about it. But one thing that was good was we had to wait on the guest services line. But once you're done with guest services, they have kind of like a express entrance. So we didn't have to. Right in. So it didn't cost us too much time because we didn't have to wait in another line. And so we got in right around 8. I think we were maybe 4 or 5 minutes behind you. It turns out to be. We scanned in around 8:50. Walking up, I have to say, the first time you see the castle is still, still get a little emotional and that sort of thing. So tried to take the moment in, but at the same time trying to quickly get down Main Street and get through the area where because it was still early entry time, so we wanted to at least get back into Fantasyland before other people could get there. And we weren't going to bother with Mine Train this trip. We've done it in the past and just, we just didn't have time or want to spend the money on an individual Lightning Lane. So we went to get in line for Peter Pan. And
stop right there. let me go through here because I have a comment and I want to go through because I had some pixie dust myself that morning, which is really
happening.
So I do my lightning lanes because we mentioned that you can modify your lightning lanes. So refreshing works for modifies.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't, it works. It's harder to do later in the day, but in that morning period where they do not tell you what time you have your lightning lane for, you just have to go on faith and press the button. So I'm sitting here. I've got a late thing for Jungle Cruise. I'm not giving it up because I want to get on the ride with having to wait 70 minutes to get on it. So I was going to suffer, but I was on there. I knew the 710 trick where things come out of the cart and go back in. So I'm kind of refreshing while I'm waiting for that moment to hit. And I keep hitting modify, and you can go modify, look, right? It's not says look, but like book the experience, right? You modify, book the experience. And the times kept getting lower and lower. Because I think at this time people are shuffling around.
Yeah.
Right? They're canceling and dropping and picking up and whatever. I was able to drop from like a 2:00 lightning lane time all the way down to 11:55. And I was like, I tried to get it even earlier. I wasn't getting earlier than 11:55. So I was very happy with that experience. And so that just adds another layer of strategy and stuff. Yeah. But that only works up until the point where you can then schedule times later in the day. Then you have to press extra buttons and do a whole bunch of other stuff. And it's a little bit clunkier, actually. You can still do it, but it's clunkier.
Yeah, it's definitely still a big improvement having the modify feature.
It's definitely awesome. And then as you mentioned last week, probably not going to talk about it too much, but again, you can modify and refresh those times throughout the day to kind of make things work for you, as you're kind of moving through your day and you're project managing your way through Disney World. Onto my comment of where you try to get into Magic Kingdom and kind of take in the sights and the sounds and the smells and seeing the castle for the first time, that type of thing. I just want to go point out, I glossed over that experience with my first day at Magic Kingdom. I went right to talking about how do you attack the parks, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And which is funny. I'm thinking about like, oh, I did stop and smell the roses like for a half a second before like we got to get to the back and get online. And I want to say that that's an issue again with the way Magic Kingdom, or at least the way I perceive parks, right? Plenty of people have those magic moments and all this other type of stuff. We were like, go, 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 go. And I think that goes to show where my mindset is, that even in my trip report, I glanced over looking around Main Street, and we didn't immediately go back. We got pictures in front of the Christmas tree. We did a couple things, but I glanced right over that because my mindset is like, boom, boom, boom. We got to get to the park. So I need to do a better job of kind of viewing the parks through the better eyes. In any case, at 8:26, we got on the bus, but if you're at CBR, there's only 2 bus loops that come through, actually 3. You got Disney Springs, you got Animal Kingdom, and Magic Kingdom. The buses to the other parks don't exist because you have the Skyliner. So we're waiting for our Magic Kingdom bus. It shows on the screen it's coming for another 5 to 8 minutes or something else like that. And a bus, I forget what it was called. I think it might just said Magical Moment on the bus.
I think so, because we saw another, after you described this, we saw another bus that pulled into Epcot later in the week that said that. So we figured it must have been similar to your experience here, but that's what it said, Magical Moment.
So we had 2 families at the bus stop. There's nobody around, right? And the guy hops up and said, "Hey, where are you guys going?" We're like, "Magic Kingdom." He's like, "Hop on in. I'm going to take you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And it was literally just the 2 of us, and we drove directly to Magic Kingdom. And we didn't even stop at like the Caribbean Beach Resort like bus stop. He went right to the front and dropped us off, and off he went. And I'm like, that is absolutely amazing. I have never heard of that happening anywhere in any other resort where a guy just pops in, grabs a couple people, and drives them to wherever they want to go. And I thought that was really cool. We really appreciate it. So it started off our day really nice.
Absolutely.
So marrying to where you are now at the story, we got there at the park at about 8:45, and we just walked our way up because we're about halfway through early entry. We walked right on Peter Pan. We got on there right before you because as we were coming through the switchback, as we're going towards the ride vehicle, I think it was before we went inside, correct?
I think it was you were just about to go inside for like the indoor bedroom part. Yep. And we were kind of going to start the loop out, the outdoor loop.
I said you're probably about maybe like 50 to 60 people behind us.
Something like that, yeah.
Ish. And you got to realize Phil and I have never met in person at this point, and it was really funny because all of a sudden I'm like, Phil, and because we had planned on Discord to like meet up at Jungle Cruise because our lightning lanes we didn't have any firm plans, and leading up to this, I had these grand things of like, we're gonna go can do this, we can grab a beer here, whatever. But we each have like these spreadsheets of things to do, so there was no room for any
It's
of
still
this
our family
nonsense.
trips. So
Of course, right? I'm like, family, you go over there, and Phil and I are gonna go have. No, that's not gonna happen. But it was really cool, and we got to see each other for like 10 seconds as the lines kind of moved by. It was kind of funny, and then we had gotten off of Peter Pan, which is still the most overrated ride in the park, but my wife really likes it. So we were off Pan, and I think we got off of it, and we were like, okay, what are we going to do next? Because I didn't really have a plan to attack the parks today. This was kind of a low key time, and I say don't stop and smell the roses, but I do have a really cool moment that I wanted to hang out and wait for you to see what your plan was, and maybe we could go on a couple different rides if we could just kind of follow around and like hang out. But we're like, no, you know what? Let them do their own thing. We went on Small World, so we banged our one-time Small World ride at about 9:30, and gosh, around 10 o'clock or so, we went and had breakfast. My wife took our youngest to go meet Tiana at the Fairy Tale Hall, and my other kids were hungry, so we got some. Was it egg and cheese on croissants that were absolutely delicious? They loaded up with tater tots. I had my coffee for the day, and that was really awesome. But you got right off a Pan, and what did you do?
yeah, so by the time we got off Pan, it was a little bit after 9:20, almost 9:30. So at that point, the rest of the Magic Kingdom was open. So we walked over and went on to Haunted Mansion at about 9:30. This is definitely one of our must-dos. Everybody in our family loves it. And so we enjoyed that. That was one of the first times we noticed some of the extra stuff that happens with our Magic Band Pluses. All the kids really got a kick.
Yes.
Whenever something happened with it, for those of you who don't know, on Haunted Mansion, it lit up like with red, and it was kind of buzzing at the pattern of a heartbeat. And so that was kind of cool to happen. So we enjoyed that. Then we kind of spent a little time deciding, well, what do we want to do? We figured we wanted to get in our last ride on Splash Mountain. My oldest daughter didn't feel like wanting to ride that one. So we actually split up. This was a kind of one of the big takeaways or whatever, or kind of moments from our trip, is that my daughter was old enough now to kind of go do her own thing. And
she was all by herself?
Yeah. So, and we
her.
gave her some charging privileges. And so she was able to get herself a snack and that sort of thing using her Magic Band. So she was kind of feeling her oats a little bit this trip, I guess. So
how did she like, nice. I gotta stop you here. How did she like take that wandering around Magic Kingdom all by herself?
She was jonesing to do it. She was really wanting to do it. And, it wasn't like, oh, you go for the whole day. It was kind of like, okay, we're going to do these couple things. You do this and we'll meet up here. Like we gave her, a half hour to an hour, and we knew where she was going to be, and we can message her on the phone and stuff like that. But she enjoyed it. She did message me. She's like, wait, I mobile ordered this here. Where is this? And that sort of thing. So I still had to direct her a little bit around. But there were a couple other times where she, separated from us and stuff. So she really enjoyed that. She really enjoyed having charging privileges. Every time we'd go somewhere, she's like, oh, I can pay for it. I'm like, well, you're not really paying for it. But
it's not your money here, young lady.
But she very much enjoyed it.
Well, how were you as a dad letting her in a busy, it's still busy that day, right? Yeah. There were still good crowds. Like, how did you feel letting her go off by herself?
It was, I guess, mixed emotions, but she's responsible, and she had a plan, and like she told us where she was going to go. And obviously it was kind of, a little trial by fire, but we tried it and things worked out well. And, we're always staying in communication and stuff like that. So I think, we've just gotten to the point with her where she also has some challenges where she gets overstimulated. She wears headphones everywhere and stuff like that. And so I know she needs like some downtime. She can't just do everything. So, kind of, it also, makes that a little easier to let her like, okay, I need to go off and do something. And it's not like we all have to do that if everybody else wants to do something else. So definitely mixed emotions, but she handled it well. I think we handled it well. And, baby steps into the world of having a teenager. So,
well, I think it's wonderful, right? Because you were not giving her, I want to say maybe negative is not the right word, but maybe like, some forced family time when you're on these trips that might lead to her having frustrated memories about Magic Kingdom or Disney because you had to stick with her. You're a teenager. You want to go, you think you could do everything at that point. But letting her have that time, especially in Magic Kingdom, probably creates her own bits of magic, and she'll probably remember that forever. First time she got to wander Magic Kingdom all by herself, albeit it's in the same land and you're, 2 seconds away if necessary. But I think you're helping create good Disney memories for forever. I think kudos to you. I mean, that's awesome. I don't know. I mean, I think I can let my daughter. I mean, she's going to be 10 in April, so I still have 3.5 years before that happens. And until my daughter's the same age as yours, but I mean, I think I could do it. I don't know if my wife will let her be able to do it, but I think I know it's they got to get older, so I kind of dig that. So you're doing Splash Mountain.
Yeah.
How was your last Splash Mountain experience?
Yeah. So before we got there, my wife did need to use the restroom, so I randomly took the younger two because my oldest one was off, and we did the Frontierland shooting gallery.
Oh, I did see the pictures for that. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And so I posted the picture. A lot of people are like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And it's just this fun little area, like kind of near where the country bears are, where they have these, rifles that you shoot light, it's like laser type things. And you shoot targets and it makes little physical things happen. It used to be, you had to pay $1 or whatever, but actually this one of the things under Chapek that he actually took away the price and it's now free. So, but it's great.
It's for a while too.
Yeah. It's never been crowded. You could just kind of walk up and grab one, and they're these giant rifles. I think it's bigger than my youngest daughter. She was having trouble like holding it and stuff like that. But we did that, so we had fun, and then we went over to Splash Mountain. We did have to wait in the queue for a little bit. I think it went down for a little bit because it felt like we weren't moving at all, and they were making some announcements and stuff. So this was definitely our longest wait time we had of the trip, probably 40 to 45 minutes. But we got in our last ride on Splash Mountain.
You had to.
Yeah. I mean, I always have mixed feelings about it. I'm fully in agreement with Disney's decision to change it. I'm very excited for Tiana's version to come, but you do also have a lot of nostalgia feelings about it. And it's just a great ride from a ride system perspective anyway. So we were glad to get that in. We asked to sit in the back so that we didn't get as wet, and it worked out pretty well. So we did that. While we were doing this, my oldest got herself a snack, and then she took that and went to the tiki room. So she obviously has great taste. Enjoying that's what she did with her alone time.
Nice.
And then she actually met up with us by the time we got off with Splash. And then we all went over because Big Thunder Mountain had been down that morning. But when we got off Splash Mountain, it had like just opened up. So we just, so we wound up going on that. I think we had less than a 6-minute wait to get onto Big Thunder Mountain. And by that time, it was about 10:30 that we were done with that.
So you're still in
Frontierland, yep.
And I am still outside of Friar Nook. And if you don't know, Friar Nook is the little quick service restaurant next to Fairy Tale Hall, where you get to meet the princesses. It's right by the carousel. We were sitting. Well, my wife and my youngest were doing that. Like I said before, we had some really good food. And I want to say I did have plenty of moments where I can stop and kind of smell the roses. Like I was going through, I had just about 6 days ago, I had made the video for that day. It was done editing. And we have a nice little conversation around eating food. I'm like, you know what? At the time, I was thinking about, okay, what are we going to do next? Whatever. But I'm thinking back to it. I had a nice, pleasant 20-minute meal with my kids, just hanging out, listening to the music and having a bright, sunny morning with perfect weather. And so anyway, my wife got done with Tiana. In meeting, I think she met Rapunzel also, was the visiting princess that week or that day. So now again, it was time for some Aurora rides. She's been wanting to do the teacups since like Wednesday. So nice. Like, okay, we're going to go do the teacups. I had just got done drinking coffee, and actually I got onto the teacups with a cup of coffee, and I'm looking at it. The cast member's looking at me, and I'm like, I'm not allowed to have this here, am I? So I had to go and bend over. I put it on the side. I got back in the thing. I'm not good with spinning rides, but usually I get on the teacups. I just crank it around just to terrify all the other kids. I didn't want to, my brain was not in the right place that morning. So I didn't want to rattle it any more than it was. But of course, my kids are now strong enough and they start whipping this thing around. And I'm like, no, we're slowing down because my wife does not like doing that type of stuff. So anyway, we had a great time on the teacups. That's about 10:20. Then we headed over to Dumbo. We did Dumbo at 10:40. And then we just kind of did a bit of like Lightning Lane stuff. So we did Barnstormer, a Lightning Lane for Barnstormer at 11. We used it at 11:16. We did a Lightning Lane. We got a Lightning Lane for Splash Mountain for 1:20. So as you can kind of get a general sense, like we could have done Lightning. We could have gone from Dumbo to Barnstormer to Little Mermaid to Teacups to Speedway to one other ride, and just go lightning, boom, 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 boom. But we didn't want to tour the park that way because we had done a lot of that stuff. So there's some gaps on where there was some freedom for lightning lanes, and we couldn't book anything for the evening either at this point. So it was just like, why not just use it now? It's kind of like how Epcot is during the day. So at that point, it's now 11 o'clock. And we had just gotten our lightning lane for Splash Mountain for after lunch around 1:20. You were getting lightning lanes too. So what is the next step?
Yeah, so at our 11 o'clock, that was when we were able to get our next lightning lane. The 2-hour rule was up, and we got one for Space Mountain because that was another priority, and also one that we figured would carry a longer line and was a good use for a lightning lane. At this point, my oldest and my wife went to get popcorn because the younger two, I don't even know where they got the idea that this was something to do or what they wanted to do, but all of a sudden they got the idea of doing Tom Sawyer Island in their head. I can't even tell you the last time I'd been on Tom Sawyer Island, but they really wanted to do it, and we saw the rafts going and stuff like that. I was like, all right, let's go do Tom Sawyer Island. So this is our one Magic Kingdom day. We don't even have the full day, and I'm spending like a good half hour, 40 minutes, maybe even more on Tom Sawyer Island, running around with my younger two kids. And I got to say, I had a blast. It was, there's just a lot to do there. I will say it's very much not ADA compliant. There's a lot of uneven surfaces, and there's a couple of these like tunnels where, I mean, I'm not super svelte, but I was squeezing through a little bit and stuff. So they had a lot of fun. I was glad to do it. And when we got back, the raft couldn't go because we had to wait for the steamship to go by. So we got to see that go by like really close while we're like standing on the raft. And at the same time, the first festival of the Fantasy Parade at noon was starting to come by. So we actually watched some of that from the island and from the raft, and as we're going over and that sort of thing. Meanwhile, at the same time, you're texting me like, look up. I'm looking. He's like, I'm waving my hat at you. And so you were just on the other side of the river from me, in a spot to watch the Festival of Fantasy Parade. And, we that was, I guess, our second encounter waving across the river.
Right. So, I mean, if anybody hasn't seen my pictures, I have a Disney hat that I wear every single time I go to Disney. It's a big red brimmed hat that I bought a couple years ago to keep the sun off my neck. And now it's just my Disney hat. I always have to have it. It's in every one of my pictures. And I pick it up. I'm just waving it. It feels like looking up at the stars, at the trees. I'm like, I'm over here. And he finally saw me. He waves, and we make way over. Now, we definitely wanted to see the Festival of the Fantasy Parade. When we saw it over the summer, we were FaceTiming with my youngest daughter, and she was watching it over my wife's cell phone, and then the cell phone went hot and canceled the call. But she loved it. And we had seen it from our window at Crystal Palace a couple of days ago. And we're like, oh, okay, what are we going to do? We're not going to watch it I think it's at 3 o'clock. The second one is at 3. Yep. And I'm like, we're going to be at a resort. So we have to meet it at 12, but we weren't going to go do this. But you know what? We found a spot along the water, and there was just nobody around us. Like, you remember, you came over, there was like good solid 3 feet around us. So we could just hang out and relax. The kids got to see the Fantasy Parade. Phil comes over afterwards. And from there, we were just hanging out. I finally was able to shake his hand. As much as the gentleman deserves, because we were in line. We weren't going to do anything awkward at that point by reaching over other people. So we just kind of hung out. And I got to say, Phil, the first time meeting you, it wasn't like an awkward, like, oh, it's nice to meet you. It was just like another Sunday having a podcast, hanging out. What are you doing next? Whatever. And it was just conversation was going, which is really great.
And we introduced the families, and everybody seemed to get along fairly well and stuff like that. And then we headed over to ride the Jingle Cruise together.
So this is my one regret. I didn't get a picture with you or with your family at the Jungle Cruise. Yeah. I didn't take any good videos for my home video because we're too busy, just chatting, getting all 10 of us kind of herded over there. So about 12:35, we did the Jungle Cruise. And then I have a sprint all the way to... We went back again. We went back to our room at 3:30. Again, I wish I had done this earlier. I'm just going to kind of spit out what we did. So after the Fantasy Parade, we did Jungle Cruise at 12:30. Phil and our families kind of walked towards Main Street because I think you were heading towards Space Mountain at that time.
Yeah, we were going to head over to Tomorrowland. Yep.
So we decided for this day to wear our Disney shirts that were all matching. So we went to take some pictures on Main Street and all this other stuff. So we did pictures for the castle. My wife walked in and went to the ice cream parlor and grabbed ice cream and then found a table, nice, like right there, like without having to wait or push. I'm like, good for you. So that was awesome. And then my daughter wanted to do the treehouse of all things because we had Splash Mountain coming up at 150, so we were going to do that. So we walked up the treehouse. My two oldest, Sawyer and Scarlett, loved it. My youngest daughter says, "What was that? That was silly. That wasn't a ride. We just walked up steps." And I'm like, "I know." Blame Scarlett for that one. So she's off to a good start in Magic Kingdom fandom. So we're walking back towards Splash Mountain. We got on Splash at 150. At 1:30, we're starting to now stack for later in the day. We got Mickey meet and greet in Town Square for 6:40. I've never done that before. I've only done Tinkerbell in that room when she used to be there. So that was really cool. And then at 1:30, I finally met our friend of the show, Matt Beto from DCI. We were texting, where are you? I'm like, I'm getting off Big Thunder, or I'm going towards Splash. And I see him like 30 feet away, 30, maybe 20, 25 yards away coming off. He's like along that pathway coming from Big Thunder to kind of go around the river. And I was Splash Mountain, like old gift shop area. And I'm like, Matt, and he looks up and he sees me. We wave, and again, it's like two old friends getting back together. Because again, first time I've met him, introduced me to his family. He had a thing scheduled. He had a meal scheduled or something that he was heading off to. So it was again two families passing in the night, hanging out. And he has a lovely family. We got to hang out. Again, Matt's the same guy as he is on a video call, as he is in Discord and is in real life. He's an awesome guy, and we were kind of like, really wish we had non-family time to sit around and have a beer somewhere. But again, Matt from he's got that DCI spreadsheet, so he has a trip spreadsheet somewhere that he's got to stick to. Again, all family trips. So I'm kind of happy with the amount of intermingling that we had, so that I've always thought that was kind of fun. I was always looking for, because he was leaving that was his last day in the parks,
right?
And I was like, all right, I've got to keep my eye out for Phil, because I know our path's going to cross at some point again. Anyway, we go Splash at 150. Coming off of Splash, that's when we decide to go back to the room. I have here, and I don't recall exactly what we did, but like we got off of Splash maybe about 2:15 or so, or 2:15, somewhere in there. My son and I took pictures where we pretended falling asleep as we were kind of going down. It looked good. We got good pictures from that. And then we got back to our room at 3:35, and that's where I got a lightning lane for Peter Pan at 8:30, because apparently my daughter had got a bout of pink eye while we were at there, and while we were on Peter Pan earlier that day, she was on the phone with a doctor to get a prescription, which actually was delivered straight to our resort. It was no big deal, and she did not have a very bad case of it and went away in a day. So that was all well and good. But anyway, I'm back in my room at 3:30, again, learning my lessons. I wish I had gone back 2 or 3 hours prior to that. But anyway, so we go, and our families take a really cool picture. If you're in Discord, you saw it. I believe it was the cover of our last week's show too.
Yes,
so
it was. Yep.
So that at that point we split our ways. You're heading over to Space Mountain. So what happened then?
Yep. So after we took that photo, or right before that 1 p.m. was when we could make our next lightning lane. We got it for the Speedway, which was another must do for my son. So I think between Tom Sawyer Island and Speedway, we got him covered. We went over to Tomorrowland.
Let me say something. So I know, is your son old or tall enough to ride by himself yet?
Yeah. So he's 10. Well, he turned 11 on the trip, so he can ride by himself. Yeah,
he certainly can. Yeah, for sure. I'm thinking about our kids are like the same age apart, but you're like 3 years
ahead of you.
Yeah. My oldest daughter is 9, coming to be 10. She's now just tall enough. She refused to drive by herself. I couldn't make her do it, and I don't think she would have been able to. I don't think she was strong enough to push that pedal down. So yeah. I was going to ask, did anybody ride by themselves, or did they double up with mom and dad?
Yeah. So so it turned out to be. So I rode with my youngest, and so I took some fun selfies where I'm like screaming my head off while she's driving.
I have those too.
And I think actually my son, he could have done by himself, but he wanted to ride with my wife. So he drove with my wife, and then my oldest drove by herself.
Oh, okay, cool.
But yeah, so we got the lightning lane at 1 and then went over to Tomorrowland. And that's where we split up, because my son didn't want to ride Space Mountain. He just didn't feel like it. So my wife took him to ride the People Mover while I took the two girls on Space Mountain. And I have to say, like I said, I thought it was going to be a good lightning lane. I mean, we're just passing people. That that line is just a straight shot down there, and we're just walking by all of them. So that was really great use of a lightning lane, I think. So much so that we were done way before my wife and son were done with the People Mover, which had like a 20-minute long line, and I guess had those short stops a couple of times on it. So we're like, we got like a donut and a drink, and we're just sitting around waiting for them to get off. It was just kind of funny that we're like, okay, we finished Space Mountain, which usually has a big long line, but we had to wait for everyone to get off the People Mover. We then headed over to the Speedway. After we scanned in for the Speedway, we got a lightning lane for Pirates. Enjoyed our ride for Speedway. I feel bad for the cast members that work there, the ones that are just like on the road the whole time. Like
it's rough.
Can't be good for their health. But we enjoyed the Speedway, and it was nice. I know they light up the effects during the party, but even during the day, you can kind of see the set pieces for the holiday decorations, which even just that little bit, I think, added a bit to the Speedway. So that was nice. And then around 2:00 or so, we headed over to Pirates. Then we got a snack at the Sunshine Seasons after we rode Pirates, which obviously we enjoyed as well. They really cranked up the smells on Pirates. I noticed when we were going through that day. Really? Like I don't know. It was the strongest smell. Not in a bad way. It was just like, wow, those are really like effective today. And then we headed out to hop over to Epcot. On the way out, we kind of got blocked by the parade. So in that kind of near the train station there on that little kind of island in the middle, my wife and I got some pictures by the tree while we were waiting and stuff like that. But we took in some of the parade and then headed out and took the monorail over to Epcot there. And by the way, after we scanned in for Pirates, we got a lightning lane. That's when we started. We got a lightning lane in Epcot for Living with the Land. So that's where we headed first after we got to Epcot. But
yeah, so I want to say, so we probably left Magic, because the Magic Kingdom to CBR is about a 20-minute bus ride.
Yeah.
So we got out of Splash at 2. We started making our way out of the park. We got back to our room at 3:30. That's when you hop.
Yeah.
For the next several hours, my wife wanted to do some laundry. So there was a secondary pool at Caribbean Beach. It's it's just a plain pool has the basically there's a building there that you thought might be like a changing room, but it's actually a laundry room. So I went and got pizzas and some dinner. We just swam for I don't know, 3 hours or so, and did laundry and had some food and kind of relaxed. The kids got to run around. They met some other kids. So they were kind of playing like football in the pool, that type of thing. So it was really good. And then at 5:55, we booked Big Thunder Mountain Lightning Lane for 8:20. So we're already stacking we've got Mickey's and we got Big Thunder, and we've already planning not to do fireworks at Magic Kingdom. We're going to avoid them and kind of go around. So by the time it was like 6:30, that's when we got a bus for Magic Kingdom. So as we were relaxing, you were starting your journey to your favorite park. So we got there at what, 3:30ish?
Yeah, about 3:30ish. Always enjoy heading into Epcot. It's just a great time, and just the entranceway now that they've redone it with the fountain and everything, it's wonderful. We walked our way over to Living with the Land in the Land Pavilion, and we got to ride it. And at this point, it was just starting to get to like dusk time, so they did have the lights on for the holiday overlay. It wasn't sort of full effect, but at least we got to see it, and made my wife very happy. She had never seen the holiday overlay before, and this is probably her favorite ride. So we always enjoy that. After we scanned in at Living with the Land, we got a lightning lane for Spaceship Earth. So after getting off Living with the Land, we did Spaceship Earth, and then we started heading back into World Showcase for our dinner at Beer Garden, our ADR there. That was part of the Candlelight Processional Dining Package. On the way, we did stop at the festival booth in China for I think it was called the Panda Boba Tea. My kids love boba tea, so they wanted to pick that up before we got it into our dining reservation. We had dinner at Beer Garden. We had never eaten there before, so we thought it was one of the places that had the dining package, so we thought that would be something new to try. We know they decorate for the holidays and stuff like that. I would say we had sort of mixed reviews of it. I enjoyed it. My youngest really liked the entertainment. She was out they have like a little like dance floor area, and she was out dancing with them and other people and stuff like that. My wife had enough to eat and she enjoyed it. My other two just didn't seem to really like the food. I think I think my oldest had like 3 cubes of cheese or something like that, and I'm like,
Oh
and she's like
no.
a Disney adult. I'm like, well, that was $65 for 3 cubes of cheese. Um,
Mm.
it is what it is. I think that it's a really festive place. They do a really nice job with it. I think it's just one of those that's not the best option for my family. I'm glad we tried it once, but I don't think we're going to rush back there.
Yep.
Um, we had a little bit of time after that, so probably when you were getting to the bus stop, we were getting out of dinner. We wound up going to the Mexico Pavilion to ride the Grand Fiesta Tour, which actually had a little bit of a wait. It's the longest line I've ever seen for
Huh,
that.
really?
And then we headed back to line up for Candlelight Processional. The idea was I was going to get in line, and the other people would either go to like the Japan store shopping or get some drinks or something like that. That line was full on going for the dining package, so we were all like in this mob of people. I mean, I posted some pictures on social media and on Discord. I mean, we were way back, and we were there about an hour before the showtime in the dining package line.
Yep.
So
We were the same thing on Monday.
yeah,
It was
and
crazy.
so I mean, I think it's just it was the first night that Josh Gad was doing the narration. I think it was just really popular, that sort of thing, and everybody wanted to make sure they got a
It
good
was
seat, so got
it
there
was no
extra early.
you did his first night. I did his last night, and there was no
Yeah.
difference either night.
So I'm glad we got there when we did, and honestly, I mean, as far back as we were, we wound up with a great spot. Everything worked out well, but it just between having the dining package and lining up, that's always a good chunk of our evening, even before
Mhm.
the show started. And obviously, it's about a 45-minute show. Starts at 8:30. Excellent show. Highly recommend Candlelight Processional to anybody who's interested. The family generally enjoyed it. I loved it. My wife loved it. My oldest enjoyed it. My son said it was boring and too long. And my youngest started falling asleep. So keep that in mind if you have younger kids. It is kind of a longer show and it's a lot of singing and stuff like that, but it's a really well done and very much gets you in the holiday spirit. And just to end, I'll just finish up our night. We at this point everyone was kind of tired, especially my youngest. We decided to leave the park, not stay for Harmonious. Obviously, it was going on while we were walking out, so we saw some of it. But we're like, well, let's get ahead of that post firework crowd. So we got on a bus, before the park
Oh,
really
that's
closed.
interesting.
So we headed out, around 9:30. We're probably on the bus, and got back to the room then. So we saw a little bit of Harmonious on the way out, but we knew we had another evening, and we just felt it was the best to get ahead of the exiting crowd.
Let me throw my comments for Candlelight Processional so you don't hear it now and at the very end of the trip
Yep.
report. I have very similar. I absolutely loved it. We got to see our friend Zach sing in the choir,
Yes.
which was really cool. So shout out to him. I know he's listening, and he's been on the show plenty of times. And that was really cool to see him. And then, my youngest 4-year-old sat on my lap the whole time, and she was completely engaged the whole time. She was kind of doing the whole orchestra thing. She saw because we were down the center aisle towards the back, so she had a clear view of the conductor doing his thing.
Nice. Yep.
Josh Gad did an excellent job. He made plenty of jokes, and I think one of my favorite ones was, I don't recall the name of the song, but there's kind of more of like a Jubilee type of song and like a Baptist, choir kind of singing Christmas song style. And he got done. He says, I always picture the chickens from Splash Mountain all kind of going up at the very end, going, yeah, cheering and singing. And then he says, but they'll all be frogs soon anyway. And the crowd kind of chuckles. And he says, what, too soon? Too soon? And he goes on. So he's making a couple
Yeah. He had a couple good jokes with Art too. He's like, he was waving to the people in the back, and he's like, "Hi, people in the back." He goes, "I would be back there too, except I booked a Genie Plus." And then he's like, "Oh, and people here that if this is your first time seeing it, don't worry, it's my first time too." And he's like, "And if you're only here because you couldn't get one for Neil Patrick Harris, same thing for me." So.
Yeah, he had a similar joke with Neil Patrick. He did an excellent job and really really loved it. We're not an extremely religious family, so we don't have ties to do it. Because when I told my sister, who's a DVC owner, she's a big Disney fan. She's like, "Oh, I never thought you would do that because it's a very religious show." I'm like, I just love the music. I think it's beautiful, and even the story of the birth of Jesus is just a beautiful story, and everything else that I grew up on that with that story. So I mean, like I love all the music. So my wife was like, that was absolutely amazing. I would love to be able to do that every single year to start our like Christmas, season type of thing. And all the kids loved it. No one fell asleep when we went there. And that was really good. And then of course, We'll pick up my candlelight processional dining package thoughts on the Monday. But getting back to me, while you were eating dinner, we're hopping back onto the bus for Magic Kingdom, and we were that was like I think our longest midday kind of break, and I think it was just enough. If we had to stay there longer, it would just been like kind of like another night back at home where we kind of meander through dinner, that type of thing. But nope. We get back on the bus around 6:30. We get to Main Street around 7:05. Again, it was about a 25-minute drive to get there and wait. So we did our Mickey's meet and greet, and that was absolutely fantastic. Mickey was awesome. He was handing everybody stickers. Sawyer had mentioned that Mickey. He just saw Mickey and Fantasmic, and Mickey was showing him all of his props and everything else like that. We had a really solid
nice.
I'd say 15-minute time with Mickey doing that whole type of thing. So that was really good. So, of course, I did not mention Carousel of Progress or the People Mover. And, of course, being at Magic Kingdom and not doing either one of those would have been a crime to my family. So we headed over to Tomorrowland, 7:30 Carousel of Progress, 8 o'clock People Mover. At that point, I got a lightning lane for Pirates. I'm just looking for lightning lanes to kind of just fill in the gaps, right? I have it. I'm going to use it. And everything, all the decent rides, basically what I call the second tier rides at Magic Kingdom are basically everything but the mountains in Peter Pan. So I got Pirates did I not copy something in here? Nope. So I got Lightning Lane for 8:05 for Pirates, basically same time Pirates. And then we get on our Peter Pan ride at 8:20. We head over to Big Thunder for 8:40. I sat with my daughter while doing that, and she was somewhat terrified, but not super terrified, which is great. After that, we did Pirates at 9 o'clock, and then at 9:20, I'm like, talking to my wife, I know everybody's tired, but we need to do the Tiki Room. That's like my third favorite thing to do. We love listening to the Tiki Room at dinner time and singing it. So we did the Tiki Room, and then we headed out, and at 10 after 10, we got on the bus to go back to the resort. Another very, very long day with a nice break in the middle. But again, it's starting to come in we need sleep at this point. And I can't believe how great my family has done so far. I'm very impressed with their stamina at this. But again, here we go. Did we see each other? No, we didn't see each other. Did we see each other at Animal Kingdom the next day? Because now we're both starting off at Animal
Kingdom.
Kingdom.
No, we just our plans did not align or whatever. And because we kind of had a weird Animal Kingdom day, and then we were heading out. So we did not see each other at Animal Kingdom.
No. So we both wake up at 7 for the same exact plan. I was able to get Navi River for $9.25, and I just said, screw it. I'm going to get individual Lightning Lane for Flight of Passage, even though I probably could have waited and saved the cash, but I wanted to make sure we got on it and not have to wait online for 80 minutes for it.
Yeah.
So I got Flight of Passage for $9.55. I'm basically duplicating my summer stay for my family. However, we just got some extra sleep. We just kept sleeping. And we didn't get onto the bus for Animal Kingdom until 9:30, a full 2 hours after our early entry window. So we were thinking about getting there at 7:30, just get there and just do Expedition Everest over and over and over again. Nope, we needed some extra sleep. So that's what we did. I see here that you basically had the same plan.
We had very much the same thing.
Yes.
We wound up getting our at 7 a.m. booked our Lightning Lane for Navi River Journey for 9:40. We actually would wind up modifying that to be later to work out with our plans. And we also bought an individual Lightning Lane, which we were planning to do. We got that for 12:30, which is what the time we wanted, because that's when we were planning on having lunch in Pandora. Same thing. We had grandiose plans of getting up, using that early entry time, riding Expedition Everest a few times, going on the safari and all that stuff. The kids just needed more sleep. And it was kind of one of those, I was like, you know what, if we're not going to make it there for early entry and stuff like that, let's just let them sleep. And they got probably a couple more extra hours. We already had, the lightning lanes that we wanted that were kind of things we definitely wanted to do. And we said, we'll take it as it comes. I think we got to Animal Kingdom maybe a little bit more earlier than you. We left about 9:15, got to Animal Kingdom about 9:30, and then decided what we wanted to do. Because I'm looking at the wait times, and I'm like, okay, well, we talked about doing Expedition Everest. It's only 20-minute posted wait time. It's not going to be going down. Now's the time to do it.
Yep.
Despite everyone talking a big game before we got there, nobody wanted to ride it. And some people were like, okay, well, I guess I'll do it. I'm like, well, do we not really want to do this? Because that's on the other side of the park. So we decided not to ride Expedition Everest, even though I thought that was something we'd do multiple times. And instead, we went to the 10 o'clock showing of the Festival of the Lion King. It had been several years since we've seen this. And I'm glad we did this. It was nice to just sit down, take some time, and it's just an excellent show.
Yep.
And so, it's something that's very Disney. It's not something you'll see anywhere else. And then what we did at 10 o'clock, because by then, since Animal Kingdom opened so early at 10 o'clock, you can already book your next Lightning Lane. There wasn't anything like must do that fit into our times to do it there. So we already started booking for where we are going to hop to, which was Hollywood Studios. And we were able to book one for Slinky Dog.
That's crazy. So, what time did you get for Slinky Dog?
It was
going down here.
It was around 7:55 or something like that. So it was in the evening, but still we got one. We weren't planning on getting one. So that was a nice surprise. So yeah, we were like, okay, well, we got, the ones we wanted to do at Animal Kingdom, and we already have the set for when we start going into Hollywood Studios. So, then why don't you go over and start covering your time?
No, I want you to go over the rest of your Animal Kingdom day, because you did the Rhino Tour, but talk about the Rhino Tour, and then how you staged your evening at Hollywood Studios. Like, because I know you're starting to stack. So how was the Rhino Tour, and what did you have in your pocket by the time?
So at 11 a.m. we had booked our tour for the Up Close with Rhino Tour. This was kind of the one thing that we put a lot of effort into booking this. They only do it once a day, and there were, I think, 13 people in our group. So, out of how many thousands of people come in, 13 got to do this. It was a really great tour. It takes about an hour. You do go backstage, so you can't take any photos. It's the first time any of the kids have been backstage at Disney. You ride in a Jeep type thing out to where they have the animal pens where they keep them and monitor them. And, on the way out, the cast members, asking us, giving us facts about the rhinos and, answering any questions people have. Very friendly. And we get out there, and there's the two keepers there that talk about the rhinos, and you get to see where they're kept and how it's put together and how it works, and kind of how they get the rhinos to come in the evenings. And they said, they're like, but by the way, if that rhino does not want to come in, there is nothing we can do about it, and it'll just sleep out in the savannah. But one of the big things you get to do is you go around back, and they had one of the rhinos there. It was the male rhino Dugan, and he's just chilling there, and everyone gets a turn to go up and pet Dugan, pet the rhino.
Because you get to pet rhinos all the time.
Yeah, right? Everybody gets to do that, right? So he's just chill there, and you're petting him, and he's like leaning into you. And it was a really cool experience. My kids got a really big kick out of it. Afterwards, we come back, and they have some signs holding up saying, I met Dugan today, and that sort of thing. Because you can't. That is one thing. I know they don't like to show any pictures of backstage, but it would have been kind of neat if they had a photo pass photographer or something like that to take your picture while you're petting the rhino. But it is what it is. But it was just we wanted to do something a little bit special for my son's birthday, and this is what we wound up doing. And I think everybody loved it. And I'm trying to remember the price. It was either $35 or $45. It's not super expensive. So it's I know they also do one with elephants. You don't get to touch the elephant, but you do get to see them from different angles and stuff like that. And that's a little easier to get. So highly recommend doing some of these tours, especially if you've been to Disney multiple times and you're kind of looking for something a little extra. Most of them aren't that expensive, and it's just something unique. So highly recommend it. So after that, I think I was able to then book a Lightning Lane for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway for later. And then at around 12:30, we headed over to Pandora, and that's when we used our individual Lightning Lane for Flight of Passage, and then our Lightning Lane for Navi River Journey, which I had modified to be later so that they all kind of fit in that 12 to 1 o'clock area. And then we had lunch. I thought we were all going to get lunch at Satuli, but the younger two really didn't want that food. They wanted just a regular burger. So me and the youngest hoofed it over to Restaurantosaurus over in Dinoland, got burgers for the two younger and brought them back. So we all ate at Satuli. At that point, it got to be 2 p.m., and I was able to book a Lightning Lane for Smuggler's Run, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. And shortly after that, we decided that we were going to head out and head over to Hollywood Studios right around 3 o'clock. On the way out, we did see the Merry Menagerie, which was something we were hoping to do. I was hoping they'd be out. They weren't out as we're walking out. And all of a sudden, as we get to the bridge to go over, we basically get attacked by these penguin puppets that as they were coming out, and the kids just had a huge blast with that. So I was really glad that worked out timing wise. Those cast members are just so into it and so excited and happy. And it was just a really good experience. So right around 3 o'clock, then we Fortunately, by that time, they have the direct bus to bus or park to park buses. So we took the bus over to Hollywood Studios right around 3 p.m. And, I mean, I'll mention it when I come back to talking about Hollywood Studios. But at this point, we're walking in with lightning lanes for Slinky Dog Dash, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. So that's kind of a nice thing to have in your back pocket as well.
I mean, that's basically how I had my evening set for my Hollywood Studios day, but we spent the whole day at Hollywood Studios in the morning. I mean, and that's how I would want to do. We talked about this last week about strategy to do the parks. I would have done the same exact thing minus the Animal Kingdom and just try to get all those attractions for like the last 4 hours of the park. Okay, so now like go back to my day. So again, we got the same exact lightning lanes. We slept in. We got to the park around 10 o'clock. I want to say we were on the bus to Animal Kingdom about 9:44. We hoof it right over to Navi River, and then we do Flight of Passage. We do those things back to back. In the meantime, I had booked a lightning lane for the safari at 10 o'clock. So we did that. And then after Flight of Passage, we went over to we started wandering around. My wife was very, very hungry, and she didn't really have a good breakfast, so she wanted something to eat. And last time we were here, we had like a a egg and cheese on a roll or a croissant that we got at one of like the little stands here and there. She's like, "This is all I wanted. This is all I wanted." So my Animal Kingdom day wasn't a disaster because we got to do everything we wanted, but it was the least planned day. It was ill planned because I was not prepared for my family being starving and being grumpy about it at 11 o'clock because we have Tusker House coming up at 3, right? So I thought we had our breakfast in the resort. I figured a couple of the breakfast bars I have shoved in my bag could tide them over to the giant meal we're about to have.
Right.
And if I had known that we needed to have something to eat, I would have had Satula's Canteen because this is the second time I've been at Animal Kingdom in the last year that I did not go to the best quick service meal on property, which kind of aggravated me. So we ended up going to why can't I think of it right now? It's the pizza joint in right before Africa or in Africa.
In Africa, so it's not Pizza Safari.
Pizza Safari, yes, that's what it is. So I was like, all right, this is the closest quick service we're going to go here. We've got a Crustable and a pizza and just like grubby food for everybody. Everybody was happy. It was a quick recovery, but I felt like the first time I was ever at a Disney park where I was panicking. I didn't know where to go. I'm wandering around in circles. Everybody's unhappy. And like I felt like a rookie tourist at this point. I'm like, oh, but quick recovery. I took matters in my hands. We're going to go here. I'm like, well, because we stopped at a couple different. How about you want to eat something here? But it was like all like spicy kind of, not spicy, but somewhat spicy food. Whatever. They just wanted something simple.
Yeah.
Like, you're the wrong part for just something simple.
Well, that's what I was when they wanted the burger. I'm like, okay, that's on the other side of the park. Yeah. Like, there's just not as many places that have just like burgers and stuff like that.
So between like 11 and 12, basically, we were wandering around trying to find a specific thing. Like I stopped and got my coffee. My wife wanted to find a Joffrey's because she found this really good peppermint mocha thingamajig that she thought was really delicious. I'm like, I don't think there's a Joffrey's in here that's like full service, like drinks, like it is at Epcot and outside of our resort. And there wasn't, by the way. There's a Starbucks, so we had one of those. Anyway, we've done Pandora completely early in the morning. I have a quick bite to eat. After that, I booked a Kali River Rapids for right now. I think we skipped to like a 20-minute line, so that was good. We got on our safari at 12:15. We booked a lightning lane, did the safari, did Kali River. I booked a lightning lane for Everest for like 20 minutes from now. So we booked it at 1. We got to Everest around 1:25. I think my youngest is tall enough to go on Everest, but she did not want to do it. And I was not going to drag her through the whole line, get her on. So what happened was we got a little bit of pixie dust here. Kudos to the cast members. So I told my wife, okay, let's do a rider swap. And I asked where the rider swap was. So there's a woman underneath an umbrella that can for a rider swap that if you guys don't know, and you've never done it before, they have to actually scan the magic band of the person that's going on the second time. So there's a procedure. But my wife just took my 2 older kids and just bolted in and tapped in and went on the ride. I'm like, But now I don't get to go because he didn't do it, or I have to go by myself.
Yeah.
So I texted her, no, you ruined it. You're supposed to come back out. And then she stopped by the cast and said, by the way, my husband didn't get to go. Can he do something? And they were able to mess with the Magic Band. So it was all good at that point. And so by the time we got out of Everest the second time, it was close to 2:00. I am poor at timing these things. I wanted to see if I can get a video of them because there's like to the right of the exit, you can watch the drop.
Oh, the big drop down. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I have in my phone probably 5 videos of random people coming down that drop. None of them are my family. And my wife, I will come out. My wife was trying to do the same thing. I'm like, you did not get us whatsoever. So we have a lot of families screaming coming down that, but none of them are kids. But what was good about the cast member, usually the writer's swap was just one person. I got to take both of my kids on, so that was really special. That was
Nice.
So we were grateful for that. And then after we got off Everest, we're just kind of going around that park. And all right, let's go do Dinosaur. We want to do Dinosaur. It is as poor as I remember it from 2019. But we got on it at 2:30, and then we walked over to do Tusker House at 3:00. Again, now I'm talking about when should we stop going to the parks. Originally, Tusker House was a 10:00 reservation that we changed leading up to it. I wanted to, and this is my fault, maybe not my fault, but I wanted to experience the park at night. So I wanted to see Pandora at night, and I wanted to see the Tree of Life light up in the evening. Both, by the way, spoilers, not worth your time unless you were going to be there anyway, or you didn't get to the park in the morning, that type of thing. So Tusker House was an amazing experience. It's back to the way it was. Goofy, Mickey, and Donald, all awesome. We had some really good food. My son was eating salads. I don't know how that happened. My daughter was house and mac and cheese. My oldest daughter was eating salmon and stew and like all sorts of cool stuff. My wife loves it because she loves like the Indian kind of African type flavors with like the beans and the hummus and the breads and stuff like that. So we had a wonderful experience. We were there a lot longer than I thought I was going to be. We were there for about a good hour and a half. And sometimes it's just that's how long it takes for all the characters to kind of come around. So after that, it's like 4:30, quarter after 4. We're like, what do we do now? Oh, let's go Tough to Be a Bug. I have never done this before.
Oh,
It was a really fun show. All of us enjoyed it. My daughter loved spiders.
Oh,
For
interesting.
Christmas, she got a sweatshirt with like a Black Widow. I bought her like a little plastic spider toy for Christmas. So like she loves them. So when the spiders drop from the ceiling, she's giggling in excitement and laughter, and she wants to try to grab them and pet them. I don't know what's wrong with my daughter, but she really loves spiders, so she was excited. And then from like 4:30 to like 6, we're just kind of wandering around. Like we grab a margarita, the kids grab some Dole Whips. We kind of go sit near Restaurantosaurus. And then we decide to go do Triceratops Spin. One of the most fun things is we got to listen to a live band sing a set of like just songs and music right outside of, was it Flame Tree Barbecue over there? And we had a really great time doing that. And then at 6:00, Tree of Life comes up and we go walk over to Pandora. I'm like, it's getting a little bit more crowded because people are coming into the park to do what you should do is kind of, you can do the whole park in like 3 hours. And Pandora, well, it's nice. It's pitch black, and there's some glowy things on there. But my daughter's like, "Oh, look, that's a light poking out from the thing. Oh, look, it's not moss. That's just paint." Or like she saw through all of the quote unquote. I mean, but like it really wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I experienced it. But again, I could have left this park and we could have gone back to the resort 2 hours ago, right after Tusker House versus staying here. I don't regret my time because the Tree of Life lighting up was quite beautiful. That being said, we got back to the resort. So we're going to go back. We're going to do some night swimming. And I have a little bit, and I'll let you get through your whole Hollywood Studios day. But I just want to tell this story. So we got back to the resort probably around like 6:30, 7:00. And we just got our bathing suits on and we just started swimming at night. And my wife, the kids were in the pool. My wife and I finally got a chance to sit down. She's not a drinker, so I had I had a couple beers. She had a couple of really yummy mocktails, and we just had our sweatshirts on and we just kind of chat. How would we do the trip differently? When would we want to come back? How would we schedule it this way? And we're having the kind of same conversation we had last week about like, how do you put the vacation back in the vacation?
Yeah.
In more moments like what we're having right now. It's a beautiful evening. The kids are playing, and we're finally can just kind of relax and, take in what we've done over the last 4.5 days. My daughter just got her ears pierced earlier this year, and she lost one of her studs in her ears, and she is devastated. She comes running out of the pool, crying her heart out, and I thought something was wrong. And I'm like, what's going on? A couple of lifeguards come over, and I think a senior lifeguard was over and asking what's going on. She's like, I lost my earring. So I'm like, if there was one way to get your father into the pool at night when he didn't want to. So I'm wearing my 4-year-old's Anna Elsa, goggles on. Don't fit, and I'm trolling the bottom looking for this. You got 2 or 3 lifeguards with flashlights, kind of trying to get like a glint off like the metal and the stone. It's just not happening. One of the other senior lifeguards says, I'm going to go get changed and come in and help you look. Like he was off. Like he wasn't on duty. He was just there as staff, but not on duty at the pool. He got in and he was looking around. We looked for a good solid 30 minutes. And of course, the lifeguard in the deep end by one of the slides saying, oh, I have it here. I have it here. Apparently somebody had turned it in like 30 minutes earlier. It was sitting the whole time. But I got to say, like, this is the first time I've done not only just a cast member compliment through Twitter or the app. I went to the front desk to the manager to say this person was really awesome and he did a fantastic job. So that was our experience. And we got like some pizza and some food over, even though we were stuffed our face at Tusker House. And we just had such a lovely evening. And that's kind of that was the emphasis for all my conversation about vacation and vacation, because it wasn't feeling like we had a wasted time. We had a lovely day at the parks, but we had some magical moments and just kind of downtime, relaxation time in the evening, which I think is a big, star. In the summertime, it would have still been beaten sundown at like 8:00 in the evening, and maybe the pool would have been super crowded. It wasn't very crowded. It was just a pleasant evening, and it was just nice and relaxing. So, I'm still learning things on how to do Disney vacations. But 6:00, I'm leaving. And you're ready to rock and roll in your Hollywood City. So you got there at 3:00, just as I was sitting down at Tusker House. So how was your Hollywood Studios evening?
Yeah, so we pulled in around 3:30. The first thing we did was, because she had posted on Discord where she was working, we went to see Yulin from been on the show. Obviously, Hollywood. We talked about Hollywood Studios being her favorite park. That's where she works. She was at Gus's, so we went and saw her a little bit.
I'm sorry to interrupting, but every time I've been to Hollywood Studios has been on her off days. And I'm so disappointed. Like I've been wanting to meet her for so long. I've seen her on stream. We've chatted. She's been on the show. It's just like I usually just go on Thursdays, I guess, or something, and that's her off day. And so I was like, again. But anyway, sorry, you saw her.
Yep. And then we went up and used our first Lightning Lane that we had booked for Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway. This is only the second time I'd been on it. It's just a really fun ride. I mean, I know it's a big. I did really enjoy the Great Movie ride. So I wish we could have both, but I do think it's a really well done ride and a good addition.
One of my favorite rides.
It's just a lot of fun. After that, we had a bathroom break, and when we were waiting for some people to get out of the bathroom, we noticed we were at the one near Baseline Tap House that Star Tours only had like a 5-minute wait. So we went to do that. And while I was doing that, I then booked a Lightning Lane for the Rock and Roller Coaster / Toy Story Mania. My youngest Rock and Roller Coaster is her favorite ride. The other two did not want to ride it. So this is the first time we booked like separate Genie Plus Lightning Lanes.
Ooh.
So 2 of us got it for Rock and Roller Coaster. 1 got it for the other 3 got it for Toy Story Mania. We did Star Tours and then walked into Galaxy's Edge and just tried to take all that in. I know not everyone loves it or wishes it was, something they knew from the movies, but I just think it's such a well-themed area. And there's so many like little touches of Star Wars stuff with all the droids and all the sounds going around and stuff like that. It's just nice to take in, and it'll never get old walking in and seeing that life-size Millennium Falcon. So
yeah, well, let me point this out and kind of interject here. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is rough during the day when it's super crowded. It's hard to enjoy, I think. However, in the evening, it's a little less crowded and it has a little bit more atmosphere to it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to spend a lot of time there, I suggest going in the early evening or late afternoon to do it, because
Yeah.
there's certainly less crowded. And it's really fun with the lights and the sounds and everything else.
Exactly. For
You do a
sure.
really good job with it.
So then it was time for our lightning lanes for Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, which was a lot of fun. We had the younger two were the pilots, so we spent the rest of us spent the entire ride yelling at them, saying up, up, no, up, right, no, your other right, hit the button, no, the other button. Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's a lot of fun to we obviously didn't do very well, but that doesn't really matter. It's still a fun ride. I do wish, utilize the screen technology and maybe switch up the missions and stuff like that, but it's still a fun ride. We did dinner in Galaxy's Edge, getting a variety of things from, the popcorn stall to the green milk and blue milk to some of the tin yip and stuff like that. So we had, nothing major, but it got the job done for getting a bit of a snack. Then that was when the three people at the Toy Story Mania used their lightning lanes on that, while I scouted around for various drink options to have for later and picked up one, the In Holiday Fashion, which was one of the kind of, I think, a few episodes we mentioned ago that was one of the things I really wanted to try.
Same here, but I didn't get to try one, so I was kind of
it was
disappointed.
rather good. It was a Buffalo Trace bourbon drink. I don't know if mine was just got a heavy pour of cranberry or if that's how it's supposed to be. It had a little too much cranberry for my flavor, but otherwise it was a rather good drink. It was definitely tasty and easily drinkable. We met up with those after the other three after they got off Toy Story Mania and had a little bit of a snack at Andy's. And then we had a little bit of time before our Slinky Dog Lightning Lane was due, so we decided to ride Alien Swirling Saucers standby. They were alternating like the regular song with holiday songs and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's still a fun ride. The line just feels like, because it kind of creeps with the load and unload, so you have the pause in between the ride where you're not moving, so the line kind of feels like it's longer than it is.
Yeah.
But it was still fun. And then we got to ride Slinky Dog, which, I mean, every single time we go on it, my youngest just like screams with glee whenever we're on that ride. So it's always fun, and it's extra good at nighttime, I think. So then the youngest and I went on Rock and Roller Coaster. We walked over to that side of the park. And I have to say, walking down Sunset Boulevard when the Snope is coming down,
we did that. Yep.
and you see the projections on Tower, like that's really kind of holiday magic right there. So that was really nice.
Well, let me pause there, because again, I skipped over. I was very mechanical in my description with Hollywood Studios, because it was really a rush to go whatever.
Yeah.
But we did have moments where it did snow, and I was like, okay, well, this is what I wanted to see. And my daughter's like, that's not snow. That's real actual soap bubbles, Dad. It's not snowing. I'm like, yes, I know, but it looks very pretty. I have to say, though, for Hollywood Studios, my wife loves that park for their decorations.
Their holiday decorations are great. It does the retro vibe and has the retro songs going and stuff like that. I mean, it's really wonderful. I think all the parks have their kind of their own flavor or character when it comes to the holiday deck, which is great that they're all kind of have their unique vibe to them. But Hollywood Studios is definitely up there.
I just wish they could do like I know Echo Lake has the whole old school holiday vibe all around it. I just wish they could duplicate the Sunset and Hollywood Boulevard type vibes all the way through to the end. And it kind of fades away once you get to outside the Chinese theater and kind of going the other way. I think that if they were to be able to do something like that, that would be really awesome.
So while we were in line, the other ones did like, a bathroom break and got some snacks and drinks. And then they kind of got into the mob that was lined up for the second show for Fantasmic. So we were in queue for that, probably earlier than we needed to, but there wasn't really anything else we could fit in during that time. So we're like, might as well just get in line. Wound up with an absolutely great view. We were, maybe right in the middle, maybe 10 rows up. Had an amazing view of that, and that was probably one of the highlights for my trip. Just we hadn't seen the show in so long. The updates are really well done. I love the Frozen part, and it was probably the time or one of the times during the trip where my 13-year-old, you could kind of feel like the cool teenager went away, and she was just like enjoying the moment and smiling and having a good time and excited to see all the characters and stuff like that. So that was really cool. And by then the park was closed, so we headed back, and around 10 o'clock we took the bus back to the resort. So, I think starting out, kind of an unusual day at Animal Kingdom, but with stacking all those lightning lanes, we got a lot
strong
done.
Finish.
Done in our Hollywood Studios time and got Fantasmic in and stuff. So definitely a a full day.
That was my one regret, I think, was Fantasmic of my whole trip, that we didn't get there early enough to get a good seat, because the show was phenomenal. And we had like the back bleachers, and it's not like the bleachers in the amphitheater because they're lower, right? So you couldn't really get a good, we got a decent view, but not a great view. And that's something like I wanted next time that we go, I don't care what it is. I'm lining up an hour early just to get like, a semi decent spot. But we had so much other stuff that we're doing. So I guess ultimately we don't regret that. Okay. So that being said, both of us had a late start to the day for Animal Kingdom. We both had late nights, where mine was more a relaxing late night. Yours was a fun-filled late night. And so now we're heading into our last day, both at Epcot. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, did you leave in the middle of the day, or did you
So
stay
we actually wound up doing a little bit of a resort break in the middle of the day.
Yes.
We did talk about potentially hopping either to Magic Kingdom or Hollywood Studios, depending on if there was more things we really wanted to fit in or redo. And everyone kind of collectively said, like, the break was what we wanted. The younger two especially wanted to do pool time. And I was like, well, we don't have time to do both. We can either go to Hollywood Studios or do pool time. And they picked pool time. And we were all, the parents were fine with that, since we knew we could use a little bit of a rest. So this was the one day we took a midday break.
So my day's plan was, we were originally going to take our midday break from Magic Kingdom and go to the Grand Floridian to see the gingerbread, but we ended up not doing that. It says, no, we need some resort time on our day 4 there. So that's what we were doing. So a couple things, we were going to do it. We were thinking about doing it this day, and that's just spoilers. That's what we did. But we also wanted to see Tafiti as she was being installed that week. And we thought the best way to do that is through the monorail. Again, that's not the case, apparently. I'll go over that in a moment. So at 7:00, I get super lucky. I get boarding group number 3 for Cosmic Rewind. I don't know how that happened, but I did. And I was like, oh, shucks. Like, I think that's too early for what I want to do. But I've gone to find out from different cast members, it doesn't matter as long as you go back at any time. They'll let you in the line as long as you've had a a boarding group for that day. So I reversed my strategy for the morning. I already knew that we were going to go into the parks late. We didn't need to go in early, so I picked the lightning lane for Remy at 11:30 and BG3 for Cosmic Rewind. What did you snag at 7:00?
So at 7:00, this is definitely where I think Epcot is one of the challenging ones to, what are you going to do at 7 a.m.? What do you prioritize? So we split up, where I tried to get a lightning lane for Remy, and my wife tried to get the boarding group for Cosmic Rewind. She failed to get one. And I was looking online, and went in about 4.3 seconds. And I think she just had that slight delay again. And so we weren't able to get one at 7:00. I was able to get a lightning lane for Remy for about 12:30. And we decided we weren't sure if we were going to do this or not, but we decided to pay for the individual lightning lane for Cosmic Rewind. Just didn't want a chance not getting it the next drop. So we got one that for about 9:40 in the morning.
Yep. So you're focused on Cosmic Rewind. We managed to get it the second time. We slept late, so we woke up, and I think I'm looking at my notes. I got onto the Skyliner to Epcot at like 10:35, and I honestly think that even this day, not wanting to waste my last day at the resort type of thing, I think I wouldn't have mind going over to Epcot at like 1:00 and had a relaxing morning, maybe go to the pool, maybe like chill out, maybe use that time to go to the Grand Floridian or something else like that. But we slept in, we got some egg and cheese bagels, and got some coffee, and we just watched some Bluey and just relaxed. It was a good morning. So we didn't get to Epcot until 10:30. You had some stuff done. So what did you get done by the time?
So kids did better this morning getting up and out. We knew we wanted to, there were things to do at Epcot. So they slept in a little bit, but we were on the bus by about 8 or so, or at least down to the bus stop. And we got to Epcot basically right at 8:30. So right as early entry was starting. So we weren't at the front of the line, but we thought we'd be okay with that since we got the Remy lightning lane. So we weren't in the mob of people going there. My oldest wanted to do test track, so we went over there first. Fortunately, it was down. It was not running in the morning, which is the chance you take when you get over there. It doesn't always run right away. So then we went up to Frozen, It was posted about a 35-minute wait, but we figured, you got to do something during that time. So we got in line for that. And it was just about that. It wasn't too bad. Enjoyed that ride. I know it gets a little bit of hate, but I think it's got some great animatronics and it's just fun. So we're glad we got that done. And then we hadn't really eaten at that point. So we went over to the Kringla Bakery in Norway and got some breakfast there. And then we walked up to the front of the park for our individual lightning lane for Cosmic Rewind, which was our first time riding it. I think we covered it last time, but in case I didn't, we all loved it. We thought it's an amazing ride. Part of the pre-show is absolutely incredible and lots of fun. I think my comment afterwards is like, I don't know if it's the best ride at Disney, but it might be the most fun ride. Like, it's just like we all just had smiles on our faces the entire time.
Cosmic Rewind is so good. I mean, I hate to tell you this, but I think it's better with the other songs,
no, I think
right?
Yeah, I kind of wish we had the other songs, but at the same time, we enjoyed this song. I know some people are kind of like down. I thought it was weird or whatever. We enjoyed it, so it didn't like necessarily detract from it. So maybe in some ways, it's good that this is our first experience, and then when we ride it next, it'll probably be a time when they have regular songs, and we'll enjoy it even more then.
So you also did after Cosmic Rewind,
so
shopping, right?
We went to shopping at Creation Store. That was one other trend we had during this trip. Was my son really wanted to go shopping a lot. I don't know why. It was like there were times where it's like, okay, do you want to ride this ride or do you want to go shopping? And he was like, no, I want to go shopping. We got to look for blah blah. But he wasn't buying anything. Like, he had souvenir money, he had birthday money, but he couldn't find anything that he wanted to spend his money on. I think when he was younger, money always burnt a hole in his pocket and he would spend it on whatever and then it would be gone and he'd be mad. So I think now it's flipped the other way where he's scared to spend it on anything. So we'd be fine. It's like, well, they don't have that, or what about that? And then he found something, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I think it was the Cosmic Rewind car, like toy car thing.
Okay.
And then he's like, oh, that's $10. I'm not spending $10. I'm like, everything at Disney is $10. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Cheapest thing you can get.
So I was getting a little frustrated because it felt like we were spending a lot of time in stores for him to not buy anything. We did want to go in there also because that day they released the 100th anniversary special merchandise, and so my wife wanted to look for the Spirit jersey. They were, by that point, they were, this was at 10 a.m. They were already out of her size. We managed to get one off Shop Disney though, and my daughter used some of her own personal money that she had left over from like First Communion or something like that on this very fancy dress that she found. So that was the thing she wanted. So that was that. So we spent a good amount of time in Creation Shop. So it was nice to kind of do some of this. Was kind of probably the most time we spent shopping and stuff like that. Afterwards, we had a little time. We didn't have any other specific plans, so we went to ride Journey into Imagination with Figment, was something else my son had asked to do. At 11 a.m., I was able to make a lightning lane for Test Track, so I was pretty glad about that. So we had, we rope drop Frozen. We already had our lightning lane for Remy, and then I was able to get a lightning lane for Test Track for later in the day. So that was good.
All right, well, let's pause there. Let me catch up. So I get there at 10:30. You're heading, you're on Journey to Imagination. I'm getting there, and we're thinking about what do we do. So we're on Skyliner at 10:35. I don't have a record of when we got there. Call it 15, 20 minutes later. So let's call it getting into the park around 11. Like, what do we do? So we're going to head left from the International Gateway, and we're going to do Journey to the Imagination. That's where we cross paths for first thing in the morning. You're going one way, we're going the other, and we're doing that. So we get off of Figment around 11:30. We decide then to go to Cosmic Rewind, and I think our boarding group was called like an hour and a half earlier or something crazy like that. But we got on; it was just fine. It flashed blue, but the cast member was just like, "Go ahead." Doesn't even have to ask him anything. It was just like, "Go." So don't panic if you miss your boarding group. So that was around noon, and we got off Guardians at about 12:30. Now I want to say this is my fifth time, my kid's second time, and my daughter hated it when she went on earlier in the week. She was terrified, scared. I didn't like it. And this time we had gotten her a baby Groot, like one of the magnet.
Okay.
things.
Oh yeah, the shoulder ones. Yep.
So her shoulder's not big enough for the magnet. Her head, like it could sit, but she has to kind of go, like, if you're listening, my head is like on my one shoulder and it'd have to be on the other shoulder. So it was just like a doll for her. So Grooty, as she called it, was just kind of helping her talk through things and kind of do that. So we got off Guardians, and she sat with me this time, and I had my hand on her. She wasn't screaming the whole time like she was the first time. So it's like, well, did you like Guardians of the Galaxy? She's like, no, but Grudy loved it. He loves going fast and on spaceships. I'm like, oh, okay. So, well, how much did you like it? She goes and she gets her fingers out. And if you're listening, I'm holding my fingers like, 5 millimeters apart from each. I liked it. I'm like, whoa, okay. Well, so you liked it then? Because 3 days ago it was like, no, it's like the fingers were close together. So she was like, I kind of liked it. So my daughter the fast catches her off guard, but she loves the excitement of it also. So like after she's terrified, she starts thinking, well, that was actually kind of fun. So that's what she was doing. So that was 12:30. And then we're like, oh, we have to get to Ratatouille. So even though we got to the park late, we went from Journey, Imagination over to Guardians. And then we were like, well, we have Ratatouille, Remy's to go. We have to go to, and then let's head over there. And we were kind of like sprinting over there. And you're having lunch at La Creperie. We ended up going on Remy's at 12:45. We got off, and I think we were on roughly probably right around the same time.
It must have been around the time. Yeah, we went after we ate. We had an early lunch at the Creperie eating inside. We had done the takeaway before in a previous trip, but we'd never eaten inside. This actually turned out to be a fairly economical meal too, because the kids were only interested in the sweet ones. So we ordered a couple of the savory ones to have first to share, and then like 3 of the sweet ones. And that was more than enough for all of us. So I think that turned out to be another economical meal. Didn't take that long, but gives you like kind of that midday break. And so I can definitely recommend it as a lunch place. Then afterwards, we rode Remy using our Lightning Lane. I think this was our second time on this one as well. Definitely enjoyed the ride. It's just a fun ride. I don't know if it's as good. There's been a lot of the trackless rides at Disney of late. It might be the weakest of the 3, but it's still, real high quality ride and definitely a good addition to Epcot. I don't know if Epcot really had an everybody ride like that in it before. So
yeah, we went on 3 times in this vacation. We went on it twice the previous day. This time was our Lightning. My kids just love it when the mop sweeps you under.
Yeah, you get the water.
They get a kick out of it. And then we went. My wife really likes the crepes, so we got some of those. I waited online for like a solid 30 minutes at that window. It was incredibly slow. I had no idea what they were doing in there. And I saw my crepes sitting in the window.
Oh gosh.
And I'm like, it was stacked. I'm like, everybody's waiting. Like, what's going on? I don't know what was happening. So we had our grips, and then between 1:00 and 3:00, I think we just looked for the last of our Olafs. For Remy, I think we went kind of around and made our way back towards. Gosh, I don't even remember what direction. I mean, I don't think we did much of shopping. I think we just kind of. I had thought I had gotten sushi this time from the Japanese booth, but again, that was from our first day at Epcot. I pictures I just made this home video for our first Epcot day, and it was when my wife was doing something because I think going to the taking the kids to the bathroom, me and Scarlett, my oldest, she tried sushi for the first time and she loved it, so we did that. But that wasn't this day. All I remember is I had ordered. Kids were getting hungry. I knew where to get a hot dog from. It was from the Outpost on the other side of World Showcase. So I was going to get the peanut stew, but my daughter didn't want to try that, so I got a hot dog. And I got a large Diet. I don't know. I'm not a big soda drinker, but I was craving a Diet Coke. And of course, my son, being the goofball that he is, jumping all over the place, he knocked over. It was about 30% full at that point, and I'm just like, my kids were a mess this day. They're just running all over the place. I mean, they're having a great time. They're not misbehaving, but they're also not listening. They're in little kid mode at this point. So I'm just like, I just need to take a breather. I just stood by the water. It's like, all right, we're going to Mexico. I need a margarita. So that's where we went. We got a margarita and kind of finished up our kind of Epcot-ish type stuff. Because again, we've got a 6:00 Rose and Crown for Candlelight Processional, and we wanted to do the monorail stuff. And I know before we get back to you doing Guardians and Soarin' and all that other stuff that you've on the list, we got onto the monorail, got some pictures in front of the park. We took it over to the TTC. We did the changeover. It was a little packed, but it wasn't uncomfortably packed. We went into the Grand Floridian. We showed my 2 daughters the $200 princess Barbie dolls there. We went downstairs. My wife wanted to wait online we got pictures in front of the Christmas tree, in front of in front of the gingerbread house, but my wife wanted to wait for gingerbread. And there was a pretty long line. I'm like, I don't want to wait on a 30-minute line for just gingerbread. Let's head back. So we got back on the monorail and moved to Web. And by the way, so we're waiting to go make the whole sweep around to get to the from the park to get off, and that's where we saw Tafiti. We're like, oh, there she is. And of course we get off, and then as we're walking towards Rosy Crown, like for where like the land and sea pavilions are,
Yeah.
you can see her like pretty clear. Like there's like a lower, I think I mentioned this last week, but there was like, you can see her like, we didn't need to take the monorail for that, but I mean, we're going to go on anyway. So that's where we go when we head to Candlelight Processional. Like I've been every single day of my vacation, I'm going to finish the hectic part stuff. My minute by minute dissertations have gotten shorter and shorter as the day less and less.
Yeah.
And I'm making some of my home videos. I'm like, I don't have the footage that I wish I had, because we also did a lot of shopping that I didn't mention. But it's just like my wife bought a whole bunch of ears and everything else like that, and some other stuff I'll tell you as soon as we get to the Harmonia section. But I mean, we enjoyed ourselves, but I'm like, there's all these little moments that I forgot were there until I reminded that we were doing some of these things. So I think some of vacation in a vacation, I think some of these things were like, because you plan so much, it's sometimes you forget what you actually did a little bit from here to there. So, okay, so we found our Olafs. We took a monorail ride. What were you doing while we were doing that?
Yeah. So after we rode Remy, it got to be about 1:00, and this was another time where it also felt like Epcot got frustrating with Genie Plus, because obviously you have, the park opens at 9. So if you do the 120-minute rule, you can book at 9, 11, and 1. Well, 1 is also when the next virtual queue opens for Guardians. So again, we got to decide what are we focusing on. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, we got a virtual queue for Guardians at 1, and then I was able to book a Lightning Lane for Soarin' after we did that. So we were able to get both, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like they need to stagger these times a little bit. It just makes them like super stressful.
Epcot, you don't have to do anything at 1:00 because Test Track and Frozen and Remy's are probably
they're going to be gone by that. Yeah.
So everything else is like you're booking for that moment, right?
Yep.
That's all you're doing it for. So I think focusing on
that's what we did. That's what we did. We got the queue first, and then I was like, all right, now let me look for a Lightning Lane. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it's like, why are they both at the same time? And that's when we were deciding, well, what do we want to do? Do we want to go over to Hollywood Studios? Because my son really wanted to ride the Skyliner, but they also wanted to do pool time and blah, blah, blah. So we're like, okay, well, we got the Soarin'. Let's go ride Soarin', and then we'll just take the Skyliner out. And as we're like, start walking, we're like, do we really want to walk all the way over to the Land Pavilion just to ride Soarin', just to come all the way back, because we were just at Remy's to get on the Skyliner? So what we decided to use was we did the modify function, and we modified our Soarin' Lightning Lane to be later in the day. And so we kind of changed plans on the fly, rode the Skyliner over to Hollywood Studios just to get on a bus to go back to Animal Kingdom Lodge, Kidani Village. So my son got his ride in on the Skyliner, and we got back and did some pool time. I think my wife and the oldest one rested, and honestly, my wife was a champ then. That's when, because we were leaving the next day, she did a ton of the packing and just kind of making things a lot easier for later in the day, while I had the other two at the pool. My son also really liked, they had a ping pong table by the pool, so we were playing ping pong and stuff like that.
My wife and son were doing that at Caribbean Beach. Yep.
Meanwhile, 3:00 came around, so I was able to get a Lightning Lane for Living with the Land, and then I just kept using the modify feature for both of those to push it back. So like every 35 to 40 minutes, I would log on and just push it back again to a time when we would actually be back at the park.
Yeah.
And around 4:30, we got on a bus. So we took a decent, by the time we got back, it was around, we left around 2:30, and we were leaving. So it was about 2.5 hour break in the middle of the day all in. And then we took the bus back to Epcot, to the front, and right around then, while we were back at the pool, we were notified our virtual queue is called for Guardians. So we went out, and we noticed that it definitely took a lot longer than the individual Lightning Lane.
Yep.
But it was fine. We got to see more of the exhibits and stuff like that. And it still was probably 20-25 minutes. It wasn't too bad. And then at 6:00, that's when the extra hours virtual queue for Guardians opened up, and we were able to get one for later in the day then. So that would have been so all in, we got 3 rides in on Guardians Cosmic Rewind that day. That was also right when our Test Track Lightning Lane. So we actually scanned into the first scan for Test Track, then turned to 6 o'clock. So then we got the virtual queue, and then we did the second scan for Test Track. So another slightly tense moment, but it all worked out. Good ride on Test Track. We did 2 different cars, so the kids had a blast, kind of designing their cars. And my youngest went for the super like economical, like green car, and like my son did this big monster truck type thing and had fun. That's like
what
that.
My son did, yeah.
Then we did various booths for the International Festival of the Holidays for dinner. Hit up, I don't know how much detail we got into, but we went a number of the booths that we wanted to. There were like 10 booths we really wanted to get to. That just wasn't happening. We got to like 3 or 4 and got a couple things out that we liked. I think we picked pretty well with what we got. I just have a long list of things we didn't get to.
See, I mean, like I wanted to do more booths, but I also had like these dinners planned. Yeah. And I'm just like, I didn't want to spend the money or didn't have the room in my stomach for the stuff we wanted to do. So again, I think I would not do Akershus again and use that money and time to kind of pick through all the booths and do some stuff.
So after that,
I think we met. When did we meet up again? I met you right before your wife and daughter went to living with the land, right?
So before that, so after we had gotten our various booths for dinner, we went over to the Land Pavilion because we had our lightning lanes for both Living with the Land and Soarin', but Living with the Land was down. So we did use our one for Soarin', but by the time even that was done, Living Land was still down. So we're definitely bummed. We're glad we had gotten on it the other day, but this was, like I said, my wife's favorite ride. She really wanted to see it in all its glory with the lights and stuff like that. So after that, we hit up a couple more booths, and I went to stake out a spot for Harmonious. Got it in the Japan area, kind of just to the right of where the big Japanese arch is. While I was holding down spots and having drinks and stuff, we put out a blanket and kind of just sat down. My wife took the older 2 to the store in Japan to look at various things. Again, my son didn't buy anything, but I will finish up that story about my son when we finish up, but because it did have a happy ending. But while we were waiting for Harmonious to start, my wife's checking the app. All of a sudden, it says Living with the Land is up. Now, keep in mind, this is like 8:30, almost 9. The park closes at for regular hours at 9. And we did check Living with the Land is not open during the extra hours, the deluxe hours. So she was like, I need to go see this. So she went with my oldest daughter, and they were like, I guess we're not going to see Harmonious because I need to do this. They ran off. They got in. I think they were on the last boat that left for the day. But they got in, and she absolutely loved it. She was like totally happy with her decision. So that was good. But yeah, so I was with the younger 2. And that's when you came over with 2 of your kids after you did our candlelight processional, and we all kind of hung out and watched Harmonious together.
No, I think I saw you before that though.
Did
because you? I think here's what so we got back. Okay. Let me scroll back up here. So we came back and we immediately went to Rose and Crown.
Mm-hmm.
My review for Rose and Crown, I had like the fish and chips. It was all standard fare. I thought it was very good. I have to say, though, if you have kids, the kids menu is not good, right? You have a kids version of fish and chips, which my oldest daughter loved, but it's a small portion. The other ones, it's just like chicken and rice. Like it's just plain grilled chicken. My youngest daughter wouldn't eat any of it. And it's just like, it was kind of my experience with you at Beer Garden. It was just like, I had to give some of my plate to my oldest daughter because she didn't have enough. But then again, next year she'll be a Disney adult anyway, so that food's not going to waste. But like my son kind of picked through it, ate some stuff, but there wasn't like chicken fingers or mac and cheese or something more appetizing. I don't know if that's an English thing or that's just England Pavilion.
I feel like since they reopened after COVID, they really scaled back the menu at Rose and Crown. So I think that might be part of it, but yeah, you'd think there'd be at least some like mac and cheese or something like that.
Yeah. So that was unfortunate. However, we had a lovely time in there. I really love the inside. I've never been there before. It was really good. I think I want to say after that, but before Candlelight, I caught up with you in Canada. Because I think after that, we got.
Oh yeah, that's right. Now I remember. We were that's where we were eating some of our booth food at a garbage can, and you came over. Yep.
Yes. So, because Judy was there, and I think that was she was on her phone. Like I was like, "What are you doing?" She was vigorously typing right in front. And that's where she got her lightning lane for living in the land, which is great. But my wife was like, I'm freezing. The kids are freezing. I'm going to go buy some sweatshirts. And I'm like, and I think I mentioned to you, like, oh, I don't know how much money she's going to spend. She spent way too much money. She's like, you could have taken my sweatshirt or something. Anyway, you had told me to go. So I was heading towards Candlelight. And then you're saying, oh, you're in Canada. I thought you were on the other side of the park. So I double back. We went back. And anyway, after that, you were racing off to do something else. You had other things that you were doing. And then I went to Candlelight. We did my review of Candlelight already. And then I was texting you where you're at. You says, we're holed out in Japan. We walked over. My wife and son. Was my son there for Harmonious that last? No, yes. I think my wife and my son went back to the room early.
Yeah, I think it was your two daughters.
Yep. And so apparently 2 very drunk people got on the Skyliner with my wife and my son. Not like rude drunk, but somebody that was extremely tipsy and
just made it uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then here I am. I come back with my 2 daughters, and we were meeting this other couple that we were just chatting Disney fandom and planning. It was a wonderful trip back. Anyway, the 2 of us saw Harmonious. I think our daughters were comfortable around each other because they just wouldn't stop chatting and playing with their magic bands and everything else like that. My daughter's magic band worked for Harmonious where it didn't work before, which really upset her. She was very happy this time.
Nice.
I watched you put plenty of video on social media with your magic band at the time. And I think it was a really good moment. We just kind of sat there and took it in, and we had to go home, yet you had deluxe extra hours to have some fun. And I think you only did, I see here, you did Remy's and Guardians, and then you kind of.
Yeah. So I met up with my wife she was coming back from Living with the Land. We met up over in the France area. At this point, it's after 9:30, 9:45, whatever it is. And we get on Remy and we have the standby, and it's got, a little bit of a wait. And then we had our virtual queue for Guardians. So we went, walk all the way to the front of the park. And you get in line for Guardians, you have a little bit of wait. It did go down for a bit while we were before we got to get on the ride vehicles. So that definitely killed 15, 20 minutes. But, it takes a little while to get through Guardians. And by the time we were out, it was after 11 o'clock and the park was closing down. So, I mean, just walking between the different ends of the park and the wait times and stuff like that, and I've talked to other people and they're like, yeah, unless you really, rush from a couple of the smaller rides, you're really probably only getting 2 to 3 rides in during that extra. Now, getting in an extra Remy and Guardians are pretty solid rides to get extra rides of, But yeah, so it was definitely a later night because we were planning on only doing the 2 rides and thinking we'd leave a little early, but it wound up being a little later than we wanted. But we bust back close to midnight, and then we had to get up the next morning and head to the airport.
Yeah, and I know with a late night and an early flight back, it was time crunch for you. We slept a little bit later, and we got on the road at 9 or 10 o'clock. It was already starting to rain a little bit. Apparently, a day after that we left, there was a tornado watch and torrential downpour, so we timed it out perfectly.
Yeah.
We did a straight shot. We didn't get back until 11 o'clock at night, so it was a very long day, but uneventful. And my wife and I changed back and forth, so neither of us were driving until it got night, and I kind of drove for the rest of the time that way. But anyway, when we wanted to do a trip report and we wanted to make the second part short, it's almost at the 2-hour mark.
I know.
So we don't apologize at the length. I mean, overall, Phil, we had a fantastic trip. It was 6 full days at the parks, 1 relaxing arrival day that we had actually no travel time. I don't think I could have planned it any better, other than maybe putting more vacation in the vacation, which has been the theme of this whole thing.
Absolutely.
But I don't regret the pace that we did. And I'm glad the lessons that I've learned. So the next time, I'm going to force myself the next time we go to Magic Kingdom, whether that's a quick trip in the spring or summer next year where we take advantage of 2 days down with staying off site, or at least a year and a half from now when everything is Epcot's finally a whole park again and complete.
Right.
We go down there for that I'm not going to be hopefully we'll still be doing this podcast, and you'll remind me, Jason, you're going to the Magic Kingdom. Don't rope drop Mine Train. Don't go directly to Haunted Mansion and then Pirates and then Splash, and mix it up. Don't fall in the same routine again. I've learned something new about my way I do things every single trip, and that's just my evolution of what was your main takeaway on your trip? Any
I think
regrets?
it was
Anything you would do differently?
I think it was pretty similar. It was 3 really intensive, but 3 really productive days. You know, it was our first time using Genie Plus. We got 15 uses over those 3 days. So we averaged 5 uses. And most of them were, you know, quality rides. I think probably better than I typically would have gotten with FastPass Plus. I think we talked last week about how Genie Plus just dictates how you have to tour the parks if you're going to use it and maximize it.
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of knew that's what these 3 days would have been. These were going to be 3 full hectic park days. We knew that when we decided to get the park hoppers. But it just kind of makes me think that we're either going to do trips like this again that are kind of long weekends, busy, but we get a lot done, or and maybe alternate something like that with a longer trip where we mix in slower days without Genie Plus, maybe a full resort day or a couple half days or something like that, where it kind of forces you to have some of those vacations within a vacation. So, and maybe I'll just mention to follow up the closest story with my son and shopping.
Oh
Uh,
yes.
Before we got on the Skyliner, we stopped by the Gateway Gifts. That's by the International Gateway.
Mm-hmm.
See if there's anything there he wanted. And he found this. They have these like kind of baby stuffed animals of the different characters that are kind of wrapped up in a swaddling thing. I know my daughter has one, and he found one. He really likes dogs. It was like stuffed dogs, and they had one with one of the 101 Dalmatians, and he really liked it. And then we walked up and so it said how much it was. And he's like, well, I don't know if I want to spend that much. This cast member, it sounds weird that I was our best interaction with a cast member who convinced my son to spend money. But she like talked him through the whole process. Like, well, what else would you use this money for? Like, what are you looking for? Why do you not want it? Like, and basically got him comfortable with spending the money for
Yeah,
this
well, there
thing
you
that
go.
he really wanted. And it was funny. There were other people waiting and they could see like how she was talking to him and they like enjoy, you could see smile on their faces and stuff too. So it was just, we put it obviously a cast compliment for that and stuff too. So at the end of
Well,
the
that's
day,
awesome.
he has the duff. He's named the dog Domino, and he's very happy with his
That's
purchase and that
awesome.
sort of thing. So it's just kind of funny though that our cast compliment was for somebody who convinced us to spend money.
Yes.
But
Keep
it was
your
it was
protege.
just really great to see them. She got down a little bit on his level and just had like didn't talk down to him or anything like that. Just had a nice conversation and made him like comfortable with the decision and stuff like that. So definitely takeaways was still amazing interactions with cast members. Still really enjoy our time. It's just as everything gets more expensive, you got to figure out how you're going to spend the money. And I think like I said, we had a really efficient trip. Super glad to get there during the holidays. Glad to get there for my son's
Yep.
birthday. But we definitely all napped quite a bit when we
Yeah.
got home.
Yeah, we the only thing that my wife and I were talking about now that the Christmas is over, how we viewed taking a 9-day chunk out of our Christmas time at home
Right.
away. And I'm not too sure. I love being down there for like the weather, the time of year. I don't know if I want to go for a week because it felt like as soon as we got back, it was rush, rush, rush. Christmas
Yeah.
is over, and it wasn't like the nice, lazy, cozy evenings watching a Christmas movie here and cartoons there for the kids, that type of thing, where you slow roll into the holiday season. It was like we got
Right.
back. Then there was like a party that we threw for our friends here, and then all of a sudden it was Christmas Eve, and then Christmas. It's just like it didn't stop, and then work obviously piled up and stuff like that. But those are thoughts for another day. This has been way too long. I think this is the longest recording that we've done in a single sitting ever.
Absolutely.
I've got to do some editing, so actually I probably don't have to do it now because it's already midnight where we're recording. I still have plenty more thought. I could go for another hour with this because this is really quick with our trip report, and I've got a lot of things I kind of want to spit out on how I did things, but we'll save that for another day potentially. Maybe we'll do some last take segment next week.
Yeah.
For like
Sounds
15,
good.
20 minutes, like that. That being said, if you're still listening to this after 2 parts, we want to thank you for listening. Make sure you follow us on social media. Make sure you join Discord, where you can see Phil's trip report with a bunch of different pictures that go along with it. Some really, really great ones. I think once I'm done with all my videos, I might post them. They're posted privately on YouTube, so you can't search them. But I think if I post a link in Discord, you'll be able to view them yourself. But they got a lot of personal kid stuff in there, so I got to ask my wife. She wants the kid stuff on the internet, but we'll see. That being said, guys, thank you for listening, putting up with our trip report. If you have any ideas on how you would do a dual trip report like this, I don't think this will ever happen again with 2 family vacations at the same time, but you never know. We'll take that into account for next time. And again, thank you for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time. Take care, all.
Bye.